All right, so first thing we're going to go over has to do a little bit with what we talked about on Friday, which is prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Well, we're going to look at something that's not even either one of those today. Okay, we're going to start off looking at viruses, how they live, what they look like. Well, I use the term live loosely, okay, because they don't really live. They're just a shell of protein with some genetic material inside, either RNA or DNA. They're that simple. All right, so we're going to be looking at that. So you need to be able to recognize a virus from a structural description or a picture. Know the parts of the virus. Protein, shell, strand of genetic material. That's pretty easy. All right, labeling would be simple on that one. Okay, understand how viruses live and reproduce. Understand why viruses are being studied so carefully by modern medical science, and identify how a virus can spread or become more virulent. Now, kind of modern science fiction has really like gone to town with the whole idea of viruses and the fact that they mutate and the fact that they can even be genetically engineered. All right, there's a lot of research that's going on right now that's looking at using viruses as a means of genetic therapy. All right, and we're going to look at why they can be used that way, and then obviously all the dangers that science fiction has sort of used will become clear. There's actually some validity to the idea, even though they take it like way too far. It's not going to cause a zombie apocalypse or anything like that. Okay, but that's kind of the idea, is that we can change genetic material using something whose job is to change genetic material. We just got to make it do what we want, okay? And that's kind of the idea there. Okay, first off, viruses are not cells. Okay? They have no cellular structure, they have no membrane, they have no ability to carry out metabolism of any kind, they don't divide to reproduce, they don't carry out any basic functions. So basically, they don't qualify any of the things that we say they need to do to be considered alive. Okay? They are simply an infectious particle that consists of little more than a short string of genetic information enclosed in a shell of protein. So looking at these here, these are kind of four of the general structures that a virus might have. All right? The simplest is like the tobacco mosaic virus, which basically, oddly enough, looks like a cigar. A small one, okay? It's just a tube, and it's got some genetic material inside the tube. It doesn't infect us at all, but it does infect tobacco plants, and it ruins the crops. It makes the leaves get all mushy and gross, and they can't be dried and used properly for putting in cigars and cigarettes and other things that are very bad for you. Okay, so it's pretty simple. Adenoviruses, okay, they actually kind of look like Sputnik, except instead of a circle, they're a cube. They're a cube, and there's little proteins that come off of each corner of the cube, and they basically identify it. Your immune system might use these little antennas that come off of each thing to identify that a virus is present. Okay, influenza is a big deal. Okay, it's quite small, right? As you can see, 25 micrometers, so it's maybe 75 micrometers across. But it has an envelope around the outside, almost like a membrane, similar in material. But it covers up the protein shell, and that makes it hard for your body to find it. Okay, if it latches onto one of your cells, it kind of looks just like a lump in the membrane, and your immune system might miss it, which is why influenza can be such a problem. Some of the varieties of influenza can be very, very virulent. That means they can make you very sick. Okay, so it's kind of a nasty one. And then there's this last one that kind of looks like the lunar lander. Okay, it's called a T-even bacteriophage. T-even, there's always an even number here. There's that many different kinds. There's just always an even number. So it'll be like T145 or 154 or T168 or something like that. There's always an even number. And these ones only infect bacteria, oddly enough. So you would never have one shaped like that in your body, most likely, but they infect bacteria and go about their life cycles that way. Okay, so the protein shell that encloses a viral genome. Anyone know what genome means? Genome is the sum total of all of your genetic information. All right, so all of your chromosomes all put together would be considered your genome. Okay, so all the genes in your body. Okay, so the protein shell, its technical name is a capsid, okay, and it comes in a lot of different shapes. From a simple rod, this is what the tobacco mosaic virus looks like under a good electron microscope. So you can see they just look like long, thin rods, okay, to a sphere or a cube or even some more complex forms like the herpes simplex virus, okay. It has an envelope around the outside. It's got its DNA in the middle. It's got like a special protein surrounding its DNA and then another kind of layer around the outside, all right, that makes it tougher to find and tougher to destroy. HIV, okay, has a very unique structure. It's got this kind of non-symmetrical rhombus looking deal, okay, inside where two strands of RNA are kept. Okay, there's kind of several layers surrounding it. What's the problem with HIV? I mean, obviously that is very bad, but why is it so difficult to cure? Anybody know? Not so much that it's everywhere. It attacks very specific types of cells. What cells does it attack? Keeping in mind, does anyone know what HIV stands for? Human immunodeficiency virus. Okay, HIV. It attacks your immune system. It attacks your T cells. Okay, the cells that are supposed to be going out and hunting down viruses and killing them, that's the ones it infects. So when your immune system pumps out a bunch of things to take care of the virus, they're giving it exactly what it wants. It sends those cells out, they grab them, they get infected, that cell produces more viruses, more immune cells get put out, they get infected, and soon your immune system just quits. Okay, it just keeps putting out all these cells. It's just cannon fodder. It's just sending soldiers to their deaths, okay, constantly, because it's sending them right out into the exactly where the HIV virus wants. Okay, so eventually your immune system just quits, and people who have the latter stages of HIV, they have AIDS, which is acquired immune deficiency syndrome. No one calls it that anymore. But when they get to that stage, basically the slightest little thing that you or I wouldn't even get sick from will kill them. Okay, so let's say you or I, we might get, a small viral infection. We got a stuffy nose and a sore throat for a day or two. Okay, we get over it. That would cause them to develop pneumonia and they would die because their immune system is just completely shut down. Okay, so people who are in the latter stages of an HIV infection basically have to be completely isolated because they have no immune system. It's like you've just got an organ transplant, okay, and you have no immune system then either because they have to give you all these immune suppressors so that you don't reject the new organ. Okay, so it's obviously a big problem, okay, but it's very dangerous to be around people who could be carrying something that could make you sick. Okay. All right. Okay, so some viruses have accessory structures that help them infect their hosts. Okay, the influenza virus, okay, that's this one here. Okay, that's found in animals. Okay, they have viral envelopes, which are membranes that cloak their capsids. So you can see the capsid is this kind of light purple thing here, and then there's a membrane that goes around it that hides it. Your body recognizes things by their unique proteins, okay, especially your immune system. It completely relies on the unique protein structure of something to recognize it. Okay? That's why vaccinations work. If you get a vaccination for a virus, okay, essentially they inject you with dead viruses, which still have the protein coat on them. So your immune system recognizes that that's not part of you, it's foreign, it goes out and it kills it. Well, I mean, it was already dead, but it destroys what was left, and it remembers how it did it. Next time you get infected, maybe you get the real deal. Okay, it's not a dead version like in a vaccine. Your body goes, hey, we've seen that stuff before. Yeah, we remember how to get rid of that, and it gets rid of it. Okay, so you don't even get sick. Right? Same thing with chickenpox. You only get the chickenpox once generally, unless you're immune suppressed. Okay, and so you get the chickenpox. The next time you're exposed to someone with chickenpox, your body goes, we know how to kill that. Don't worry, you won't even get sick. Okay, it makes the right stuff and it goes out and gets rid of it. All right, so that's the importance of those capsids. They allow your body to recognize it, but if they're cloaked, then they're a problem. Okay, so if that's how your immune system works, how come you can get the flu like 3-4 times? Yep, yeah, it's always mutating. Viruses have so little structure that their DNA is quite exposed, actually. And so DNA can be altered, damaged, whatever, by lots of different environmental conditions. So viruses mutate very, very easily, right? So if you're getting a flu shot, the flu is the worst one because the flu just seems to mutate more than anything else. You get the flu shot. The flu shot is really kind of a best guess as to what strains of the flu are going to be the worst in that particular year. So in a flu shot, there's actually vaccination against many different strains of influenza. And so you get that shot and it'll probably do good. It'll probably, you know, prepare your immune system at least reasonably well to defend you against the flu that year. But it's not going to be 100%. You could still get the flu after getting the flu shot. If there's a new form that comes in, or they didn't put a particular strain in that vaccination and that strain became virulent that year, then you're going to get it. Okay. So I'm not saying don't get the flu shot. I mean, if you feel you want to get the flu shot, get the flu shot. It can't hurt. I never get it. I got it once, and I have never been sicker. Like, I got the flu shot, and it worked. I got the flu, the worst flu I ever got. The next day, I couldn't crawl down the stairs of my house. Like, I was so weak. Anyway, but that was a rare instance. But yeah, vaccinations are good. I'm going to put that out there. If you're an anti-vaxxer, you'll hate me for that, but I don't really care. Okay? Vaccinations are good. They will prepare your body to fight off many, many different kinds of infections. And I mean, the medical evidence is out there, right? No one's contracted polio, right, in nearly, 80 years or something like that. Okay, the vaccination against polio has virtually eradicated it. Okay, same with lots of other diseases. Okay, so bacterial structure. Okay, bacterial viruses like this one here, bacteriophages. Okay, they're complex in shape. The DNA is held up here in the head. Okay, there's a sheath that looks kind of like the tobacco mosaic virus. It's just a tube, and then there's little tail fibers and whatever. So the reason they have these structures is they need to latch onto their host cell. That's all the virus does. It latches onto the cell and then puts its DNA inside. Okay? When the DNA gets inside, the cell immediately recognizes that there's genetic material floating around in the cytoplasm. Is that where it's supposed to be? No. Okay? You don't want DNA floating around in the cytoplasm. It'll get damaged. So the cell immediately gets it into the nucleus, where all the other DNA is. Okay? It's one of the few things that can go into the nucleus. It's genetic material. That's apparently where it came from, except that the cell's wrong. It's not your DNA. It's viral DNA. Once it gets into the nucleus, it'll cut a splice of your DNA out, and it'll splice itself in. Okay? So instead of a section of your DNA coding for, let's say, like insulin, it cuts out the part about insulin and writes itself in there. Next time your body wants insulin, what does it make instead? It makes a virus. And okay, it makes one virus. It doesn't seem like a big deal, except did the cell get what it wanted? No. So it sends the message again. I asked for insulin. Where's my insulin? Oh, here, make this. Get another virus. And that just keeps happening over and over and over again until your cell is full of viruses. It just keeps pumping them out because it thinks it's making what it's supposed to be making, but it's not. Okay, and pretty soon the cell is so full of viruses it just pops, and now all these viruses get out. Okay, so you could have a single cell produce thousands of viruses from one single virus. Okay, that's why you ever get that feeling like you go to bed at night and you're like, I got a little tickle in my throat, and the next day you wake up and you'd have to get better to die. Right? Like you feel that bad, okay? Because it can happen that quickly, okay? If you figure one cell can make 1,000 viruses, well, it doesn't take long if all 1,000 of those, even if only half of them are successful, okay? You're going to go from 1 to 500,000 viruses in 2 generations, okay? And that's only going to take a couple of hours. So yeah, you can get sick pretty quick, okay, on those kinds of viruses. Okay, so that's kind of what goes on, okay? Viruses are what we call intracellular parasites. Obligate intracellular parasites means they take any opportunity they can, okay, to use a host cell, okay? They can only reproduce within a host cell. An isolated virus cannot replicate itself, Okay, viruses lack enzymes for metabolism. They have no ribosomes. We already talked about all that. They're not a cell. So what they do is they latch onto the cell. They inject their DNA into the cell. Okay, the DNA goes to the nucleus, and then the virus directs the production of new virus particles. Pretty soon, cell pops. Viruses get out. Okay, they hijack the cell and make it do what they want. Right? They're cell terrorists. That's what they are. Okay, they hijack it and they make it do what they want. All right, so again, that's just kind of another diagram of that life cycle. Okay, they put the DNA in there. Okay, the DNA writes itself into your DNA. The phages get assembled, and the cell pops. Now, here's the thing. This is where the genetic engineering part comes in. If viruses can alter your DNA, if we can make the viruses alter the DNA the way we want, we can make them fix things within the human body. That's the idea anyway. Okay? There's a lot of evidence out there that shows that this is entirely possible, and there's people that are doing it. Okay? Initially, it started out with altering bacteria, essentially making them penicillin resistant by infecting them with a virus that had the DNA that would code for that. Right? And so they would infect these bacteria with this virus. Instead of making viruses, because it was an engineered virus, it would just inject them with this thing that would fix their DNA and make them resistant to penicillin. So the idea here is that we could cure genetic disorders by altering people's DNA. Okay, so let's say you were diabetic, right? Your DNA doesn't make insulin properly. So we could inject you with a virus that has the right code for insulin on it. Okay? It would go in, it would infect your cells, and your cells would have their DNA rewritten, and pretty soon you would start pumping out insulin, and you wouldn't be diabetic anymore. Right? There's also an idea that that could be used to cure certain types of cancer, because cancer is also a mistake in the DNA. So if you could inject viruses into the tumor, the viruses might infect the cells within the tumor and alter the DNA so it went back to normal, and then the cancer would be gone. The problem is, what do viruses do easily? Mutate. Okay, so you make them, you think they're going to do this, they mutate, and suddenly zombie apocalypse. Okay, not really, but I mean that's what science fiction is kind of run with on that one. Okay, and to some degree, it's not like it would be outside the realm of possibility for a virus that was designed to do something good to mutate and become very deadly. Okay, that's always the danger, right? That's the Pandora's box of messing around with viruses. Okay, it could go very bad. All right, so again, this viral life cycle, to infect the cell, the virus latches onto the cell's membrane, injects its DNA or RNA in. Once inside, the virus's genetic information writes itself in, and then hijacks the cell. Okay, so here's how HIV works. Slightly different. HIV is what we call a retrovirus, so it actually goes through kind of a double cycle. Okay, so the HIV virus or AIDS virus consists of 2 strands of RNA and some enzymes in a coating. Okay, so what we get is that the virus attaches to, okay, our T cells, the ones that are designed to go out and kill things. Okay, when the virus encounters the T cell, okay, proteins on the virus coating bind to receptors on the cell membrane. Remember we talked about that receptor-mediated endocytosis, right, where the big things could latch onto the membrane and then they would be engulfed? That's how the HIV virus gets in. Okay. The virus then enters the cell. RNA is converted to double-stranded DNA by an enzyme called reverse transcriptase. This is what your cell uses to copy its own DNA. Okay. Next, an enzyme called integrase incorporates the virus's genetic material into the cell's DNA. Again, it's something your cell makes in case its DNA gets damaged. It can put it back together. Okay. The viral DNA uses the cell's manufacturing directs to churn out viral RNA and proteins. Protease enzymes cut the viral proteins into shorter pieces, essentially make them so that they can put them together, and it becomes an assembly line. Okay. The problem with HIV is that it doesn't kill the cell right away. The cell will put out and pump out a whole bunch of these viruses over the course of many years. HIV infections take a long time. Okay, it's not a virus that kills you in a matter of weeks. Okay, it's years and years and years that your immune system slowly weakens. Okay, that's the other problem with HIV is people won't show any symptoms for years. Okay, most people who have it don't even know. Okay, that's kind of the scary thing about HIV is people are out there and they're infecting other people and they don't even know they're infected. Okay, so that's kind of the big problem with that. All right, so they kind of just bud off of there and then they go out and look for other T cells to infect. Okay, so the hijacking of the cell kind of works like that. Okay, a large number of viral genomes and capsids get produced and then pops and out they go. This is what an HIV-infected T cell looks like under an electron microscope. Okay, see all the little gray dots? Each one of those is an HIV virus that is budding off of the cell. Are there a lot of them? Yeah. Okay, and this is what a T cell looks like normally, okay, other than the little HIV viruses on it, but it actually has this kind of weird shape. It's not like being tormented or anything, it's just that shape all the time. Okay? They're very irregular in shape. Okay, so 3 processes can contribute to the emergence. That is that we get maybe a pandemic or an epidemic or right something like that. Okay, what's the difference between a pandemic and an epidemic, terminology-wise? Kind of, yeah. Epidemic implies that it's more confined to a specific area. It's serious. Lots of people in that area are sick. Okay. Pandemic means it's everywhere. It's widespread. Right. A few years ago we had that. What was it there? The respiratory one. I can't remember what it was now. It was, and it was getting everywhere. Right? It was like it was coming from. There were people in Toronto with it. There were people in the States with it, and now I can't remember what it was. Anyway, the World Health Organization totally proved they were completely incapable of stopping anything, okay, with this disease because it got everywhere. Why? Because we can travel anywhere we want in short periods of time, okay? You can get on a plane and go from one continent to another in a matter of hours, okay? And that's the danger of our being as mobile as we are. We can cause something that's epidemic to become pandemic, which means it's everywhere, it's worldwide, and it's like going to be unstoppable. Okay, that's the fear of that because we can travel very, very easily. Ebola, there was another outbreak of that, 2 years ago now in Africa, and then a couple of people who were aid workers came back to North America and they had to be quarantined, okay, because they developed symptoms on the plane on their way home. So everyone on the plane had to be quarantined, they had to be quarantined because that's the only way you stop it from becoming basically pandemic is you have to quarantine. Quarantine means isolate them, right, completely from everybody else until the infection passes or they pass away, one of the two. Okay, that sort of makes sense? Okay, and you often see that in those kind of virus movies. They're like trying to quarantine the people that have it, but it's getting out anyway, and right, that's where all the drama comes from. Okay. So sometimes an existing virus can evolve and cause disease in individuals who developed an immunity to an ancestral virus. That's what happens with the flu. Okay, that's why every year you get the flu. Right? You've had it lots of times before in your life, but it mutates just enough that your body doesn't recognize it anymore, and it has to fight it off again. Okay, so that's pretty common. Okay, that method. Right? An existing virus can spread from one host species to another. Okay, Ebola was an example of that. It was initially just found in things like primates, like monkeys and things like that, but it mutated enough that it can infect people. There's a theory also that HIV was similar to that. Or an existing virus can disseminate from a small population to become more widespread. Okay, that is, maybe it was only on one continent and someone traveled from that continent to somewhere else, or it was only within a certain group of people or like a culture or something like that, and it spread out from there. Okay, AIDS would have been an example of that. Back when HIV and AIDS were first discovered, it was found mostly to be in the homosexual community. Okay, primarily in homosexual men, but in fact, for a while, it was actually called the gay plague. It's a terrible name for it, but that's what it was called for a while, just because that's primarily where it was found. Okay, but it obviously got more widespread. Okay, and is now obviously a huge problem for everyone. right? So sometimes you have something like that. It's in, maybe a community that's isolated, or it's in a group of people who are isolated, and it doesn't, necessarily spread, and all it takes is one person, right? One person who spreads it to another, and off you go. Okay, so you could have, with HIV, how do you get HIV? Nobody wants to say it, right? Too embarrassing. Right? It's a sexually transmitted disease. Okay, you can get it through any bodily fluids. Okay, so you can get it through semen, vaginal fluid. You can get it through blood. Okay, and there was a big deal with that in the early 80s when it was first discovered, because nobody screened blood for it, and a lot of people were infected with HIV through blood transfusions. Okay, so people who there were children even, like they got a blood transfusion for something and they got HIV infected blood because the person who gave the blood didn't know they had HIV, okay? And so they got it that way. So obviously we have to check all of that stuff now and be very careful about it. Okay, questions there? Okay, so are viruses alive? Do they fit any of the stuff that we talked about? They don't really, but they are capable of reproducing, just not by themselves. So, I mean, it's an argument, but I would say based on what we said a living organism has to have, they're probably not. Okay. Why is a virus considered an intracellular parasite? Because it uses the stuff inside your cell, not the outside of it. Okay. It's not like a tick, okay, that lives on the outside of you and sucks your blood. Okay. This is something that gets inside of your cells and makes the inside of your cells do the work. Okay. How can you build or receive immunity to a virus? Two ways. What are they? How can you become immune? Jared? Right, so you can get a vaccination, a weakened form of the virus or bacteria, whatever it is. Okay, your body fights it off and remembers. Your immune system has a chemical memory that remembers how to fight it off, and then you won't get it again. What's the other way? The old-fashioned way to get immune to something? Catch it and get better. Okay, like when we were kids, if someone got the chicken pox, your parents took you over to their house to play with them. That way everybody got it at the same time and everybody would not get it again. Okay? It's a very different way of thinking back then. Okay? Now it's like, oh, keep that kid away from me. I didn't vaccinate my kid. Yeah. Okay? We just used to go over there and get sick, and then we would all be itchy and sore together. Okay? All right. How do you suppose that lots of fluids are good for causing a cold, or for fighting a cold caused by a virus? Because you always get told that, right? Like drink lots of fluids, have chicken soup, orange juice, all that kind of stuff. How's that good? Why does that help you? Because it does. It's not an old wives' tale. How does your body kill the virus? Okay, by producing cells to kill it, but if you consider that one cell could produce 1,000 viruses, is it efficient for your body to go out and look for all those individual viruses, or does it need to do something else? Daniel? Okay, it can raise the temperature, but because viruses are kind of not sensitive to that, you get a fever, but it's only because that's what your body does naturally to fight any infection. To fight a viral infection, your body kills the cells that are infected. Okay, so if it detects that a virus is on the outside of a cell, it kills that cell to stop it from making more viruses, which gives you that I'm so wiped feeling, okay, that you have when you have a viral infection. You just feel so bagged, you're tired, and you just don't want to get out of bed because your body's killing its own cells in order to save itself. Okay? Now, when it does that, are a lot of toxins and things like that released into your blood? Yeah. In order to kill your own cells, your cytotoxic T cells have to release toxins that kill them. So you want to flush those out. The more water you drink, the more your kidneys will flush it out, and you'll feel better faster because the toxins won't build up. Okay, so that's why you should have lots of fluids when you have a cold. Okay, so do that. I know it sucks because you just hate it. You just want to lay there, right? But you got to drink lots and lots of water, orange juice, chicken soup, all that good stuff. Okay, any questions on any of that? All right, good.